Tonight on America's Hope, we'll talk about the first presidential debate between President Joe Biden and former President Donald Trump. We'll also focus on faith and values here in America. America's Hope starts right now.
I might go down there tomorrow.
From the NTD Global Headquarters in New York, I'm Kelly Wright, and this is America's Hope. Thank you for joining us this hour. We do hope that you're safe and well, taking care of yourself and your family because you matter. You know what? Your vote matters as well. Hopefully you're registered to vote because we're in for a very pivotal election coming up in November. It's the presidential election. And tomorrow at this time, many people will be talking about what took place at the first presidential debate of 2024 between President Joe Biden and former President of the United States, Donald Trump. Those two men squaring it off tomorrow. We're going to talk about that debate as we get started right now. Joining me now is political analyst and journalist Julian Phillips, a good friend of mine. Julian, good to see you, and welcome to America's Hope.
Always great to see you, Kelly.
Look, when this goes down on Thursday, a lot of people are waiting with bated breath to figure out or wait to see what Donald Trump will say and what President Joe Biden will say. Both of these men do not pull any punches when it comes to speaking about their political ideology and their goal for this nation. What do you think it's going to come down to in terms of messaging?
Well, I think it's a matter of what the American public wants to believe based upon information that they have prior to this debate. You know, there's so many preconceived notions going on, perceptions, some reality, some not, on both sides. And I think that, Kelly, for the most part, people are looking at one issue, actually more than one, but I think the number one issue is the economy. So the question is the economy bad? Has Biden done anything? And can Trump do anything to make a difference? I guess that depends. And when I say that, I say that because usually in any presidential campaign, and this is not unique, the incumbent usually takes credit if the economy is good. But the fact of the matter is the economy is more dependent on the Fed. And even if you have a strong economy, usually when you have a strong economy, inflation always rears its ugly head. So we have, unemployment is down at record lows. But when you have that, usually inflation comes in. And that has nothing to do with the president. But I guess he's getting blamed for that. Of course, the other side, Trump, is trying to say, hey, yeah, that's the case. And it really isn't. So people are kind of misinformed about the economy, number one. And really who should take credit for it. And usually presidents can't really take credit for the economy.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, there's a lot of factors when you take into the fact that you're judging what takes place on the economy and you're judging a president by that. Of course, when Donald Trump was president, he was able to basically state that he was running a good economy. The jobs have been a factor with the Joe Biden presidency. We've seen more jobs added to America. Getting beyond the economy, there's also the cultural divide, Julian, as you know. There are people on the left and on the right, and there are people who are very vocal in their commentary and in their disdain for the president of the United States, Joe Biden, when it comes to the Israel issue. There are many pro-Palestinian marches going on, as we've seen throughout college campuses in America. Many people coming against Israel, and the president stating that he will stand in support of Israel. And yet he's caught in a rock and a hard place because he's also trying to appease those who are against Israel's retaliation for what took place on October 7th, 2023. So he finds himself in between two parallels of thought. One being support Israel and the other being support Palestinians. And the Palestinians have been very vocal in going so far as to say death to Israel and death to America. You and I recall those days when we heard that, and it was not a good thing to ever hear that from anyone, and most particularly it came from Iran. What do you think about that particular situation that the president finds himself in?
Let's put it this way, Kelly. I would not want to be in his shoes. You I am from the Judeo-Christian ethic. We believe that, and we also believe in the survival of Israel. The question becomes, though, if you are anyway and critical of what happened after October 7th in terms of Israel's response, then to a lot of people that are Jewish and some of my friends, you are anti-Semitic, and that could be the farthest thing from the truth. I don't really know what President Biden can do to change that course. I think what he's done is gone down the middle to the extent of, denying Israel certain kinds of weapons, asking that there be at least a more concerted effort on his part in the Knesset for a ceasefire. But outside of that, I don't know. The question becomes here, though, will this be enough to sway people one way or the other? I got to tell you, I could be wrong on this one, but I don't think I am. I don't think that it's going to be an issue big enough to sway the American public, because I think by and large, Americans have their concerns on other issues, primarily one, the economy, and also on immigration.
Yeah, and that was going to be my next question, the immigration issue.
Yeah. Look, immigration has been an issue for a long time in this country. The only one, a lot of people would probably take exception to this, who had a better handle on this, was President Obama. And people say, what? You might remember that his nickname was Deporter in Chief. Deporter in Chief, that was his nickname. Some people don't remember that. Look, we need people coming into this country. I guess the question is, how many people can we have come in, especially if they're not coming in through means that are justified. We don't have Ellis Island anymore. We don't have those kinds of means and methods. Look, here's my thing. We are not focusing on the issues that really are bringing these people here. The core issues are situations that are happening primarily in Central America and other parts of the world that are making it very hard for people to stay in their countries. Young men, well, it's not just young men. There's a lot of women, there's a lot of children coming over here, and they have borne the brunt of going through, snake-infested jungles and all those things. Look, again, we have to look at the problem, cause, not just a symptom, and put a band-aid on it. You can try to stop people coming across this border, but primarily what we need to be involved in is diplomacy and action that keeps people in these countries stabilized, so they're not run by autocratic gangs, drug lords, so on and so forth, and is making it very, very uncomfortable for people to stay where they are. And until we start focusing on that, on the cause as opposed to the symptom, I think we're going to be in this situation, and it's not boding well for President Biden at all. Like that, it's not helping his situation. I would say.
And no doubt about it, President Trump, or former President Trump, will actually seize upon that when that particular subject matter comes up in the debate. With both of these men, they're strong in their messages, and yet many Americans are divided on their message. You have the people on the left, the people on the right, the Democrats, Republicans are all responding in visceral ways to both men. Many Americans have a dilemma about this upcoming election, yet they view it as being critical to the future of America's democracy. You were mentioning faith and being a Christian. Do you think there is a faith and freedom movement going on in America that is not looking to the left nor to the right, but looking up and saying, God help us?
I think there is a God that we serve that will decide the course and the future of this country. He raises up kings and he brings them down. And at this particular point in time, it's really all in God's hands, which is always has been, Kelly. Righteousness always wins out. And that does not mean that Joe Biden is righteous or not, or Donald Trump is righteous or not. God is the only one that is righteous. When we look at our past history here in this country and around the world, tyranny has always raised its ugly head. But righteousness has always prevailed. The bottom line is, it usually comes at a cost. And I'm wondering what cost it might be as we move forward to November and years after. Only God knows that.
It's a powerful statement, Julian. Very sobering to think about that. What is your hope for America?
My hope that democracy prevails. My hope is that people can come to an understanding that we can have differing views, but we can still be Americans at the same time. My hope and prayer also, Kelly, is for the media. We have so much coming at us nowadays. You know, the days back in the 60s and stuff, we had maybe 4 different networks. Now we have social media, 500 stations more. There is so much information coming out there, and a lot of it is wrong. And we have a lot of artificial intelligence now that is raising its ugly head. There's got to be a way that the truth can come out when it comes to what we believe, why we believe it, and why we should believe truth. Truth is the issue, and the Fourth Estate, as we are part of, has not done a very good job of disseminating truth.
Always good to have you on, my friend. God bless you.
Thanks for having me, Kelly.
Thank you. Coming up next, we'll be talking to Pastor William Green. And welcome back to America's Hope. I'm Kelly Wright. Glad that you could be with us. And now we want to talk about not so much the debate, but talk about faith and freedom and values and family. Our next guest will address that. His name is Pastor William Green. Pastor Green, thanks for joining us this hour on America's Hope. I wanted to talk to you about the Mordecai mission. What is the mission?
Well, as Christians today in this country, we have to be in the leadership of government, and we have to change the laws to reflect what God wants this country to be.
From your perspective, where is the leadership in America, and what should our leaders be saying about bringing unity to America and not division?
Well, one of my experiences, when the Twin Towers fell, I was at Ground Zero for 2 months during the recovery effort.
Wow.
And what offends me the most is to see a Hamas flag being raised in place of the American flag when that happened on the campuses. Because I remember when that happened, the same people over in Palestine, they were cheering up and down that the towers fell. So you see, the leadership in this country is backwards. How dare we let them come over here? And I do mean come over here, because most of these protesters weren't even born in this country. They migrated because we allowed them to. But to come in here and disrespect our nation, and the powers that be are not only silent about it, but they're also complacent. And that's the travesty of the present leadership that we have here, which is why we need men and women of faith to occupy these roles.
I want to go back to a couple of things that you said, Pastor Green. You talked about when Mordecai and Esther were able to expose Haman's plan to annihilate Jewish people. The king took care of Haman and then placed a signet ring on Mordecai and elevated him to a status of leadership, as well as Esther, of course, who was his queen. But they were able to write laws that were beneficial to all people, not just Jews, but all people in that Persian Empire. You're talking about Christian activity or men of faith, men and women of faith, getting involved in American politics, whether they're Christian, Jewish, or Muslim, but coming together to serve the United States, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I don't want to put words in your mouth, but is that what I'm hearing from you?
And see, the problem is with many pastors and many Christians, they don't understand that we have to be involved in the political process. The fact that we haven't been involved in the political process is the very reason why we're going through what we're going through today. Most people don't even realize persecution of Christians in this country is happening right now. It's not that it's coming, it's here.
And let me ask you real quickly, not to interrupt you, but when you say that it's happening right now, for the sake of people who may not see what you see, where do you see it, and what does it look like? Persecution of Christians in the USA.
Well, let me give you an example. In certain states, particularly in Michigan, they're trying to pass a law where if you speak against homosexuality, that's a criminal offense, punishable by jail time. So not only are our religious rights about to be mistreated, but we're also facing now this our First Amendment rights. So our religious rights tie into our constitutional rights because our Constitution was based on biblical principles. And see, this is why, as Christians today, we just can't take a sit down attitude and say, "Oh, well, God is going to fix it." No, God will fix it through the efforts of His people.
Let me ask you then. You were talking about Democrats. Republicans bear some of the blame too. Is that right? I mean, because I once recall Franklin Graham, the son of Billy Graham, once saying it's not about Democrats, it's not about Republicans for him. It's really about elevating God and trusting in Him and not in either party. Because if you look at the reality, both parties have failed to make America or help America form a more perfect union.
Mm-hmm. And keep in mind, what I'm actually saying is the political is not the answer. Christ is the answer. But we as Christians, we have to allow Him to use the political to establish His rule. Because as the Bible says, the government shall be upon His shoulders. His being who? Jesus Christ. So we can't take a non-active stance in doing this. We have a biblical mandate that says we are supposed to occupy until He returns. So what does that mean? That as Christians, we're supposed to be in the White House. We're supposed to be the majority in the Senate, in the Congress. But we also understand that this is more than a political issue. This is a spiritual issue. And the reason why we know it's a spiritual issue, because look how people think. Look how people are behaving.
Break it down in lay beyond the church setting, beyond the pulpit, and get into the streets of America, the corporate offices of America, and the government offices of America, and talk to the people right where they are based on your Mordecai mission and reaching out to help all Americans come together.
Well, basically, we have to restore morals in this country, okay? I mean, the things that are happening right now, you couldn't even imagine 30 years ago, okay? So we have to bring back morals and sanity back to our society, okay? We can't keep allowing the transgender agenda to flourish. We can't keep allowing abortions to flourish. Because why? We're killing babies in the womb. And think about this. One of the most dangerous things to be in America is a child. And why do I say that? Because if a child is fortunate enough not to be aborted, then once that child is born, then what? Now comes the onslaught of the transgender movement, where now children are being brainwashed as early as 5 years old, maybe even younger. They're being indoctrinated. So we have to stand for children. We have to stand for morals in our society. We have to stand for the idea that children should be children. Parents should have first say on how children are raised in this country. But right now, what you have, because of a lack of a standard, is that the school system is out of control. There's indoctrination in the schools.
How do you empower parents to raise their children according to their faith and according to their values in a public school setting?
Well, this is why parents, people of faith, we have to come together collectively and change these laws. Now, the first thing we have to do, as far as the school system, I don't think parents should have to homeschool their children in order for them to have a safe education. So we need to get the homosexual agenda out of these schools, because whether a parent homeschools their child or not, guess what? You're still paying taxes for these schools. So actually, we're funding all this nonsense. So that needs to be addressed, and that needs to be a stop. I mean, these children are learning everything except for reading, writing, and arithmetic. And the only thing they're learning is how to be erotic and having their minds brainwashed. And we just can't sit back in silence and watch this happen and say, well, God is going to fix it. No, we have to fix it. We have to do something now.
So where did America go wrong, and how do you see it righting itself?
Well, let's start where America went wrong. Let's go back to 1964, I believe, where one woman was able to take prayer out of schools, and the church said nothing. When Stonewall happened, and that was the birth of the gay rights movement, no one said nothing. So what do we have to do now? We're involved right now with a joint effort with an organization called the American First Warehouse. And together, what we're going to do, we're going to establish a model of Christian unity that all can join to fight back. We want to get behind candidates who want to run for office, and who see it as their charge and their duty to make these changes. So we have to get back to standing up publicly for what we believe.
And so you're embarking upon this with the America First warehouse, which is operating out of Ronkonkoma, New York. And together you'll be reaching out to other ministries throughout the country, throughout the land, and actually trying to unify the church. And that in and of itself can be quite a huge task, as you know.
Yes. Well, we are embarking on a 4-year plan because, see, nothing is going to happen overnight. But by 2028, we should be in a position to have a majority of Christian believers in the Senate, in the Congress, and eventually the White House. Because
let me just ask you, if you accomplish that in 2028, what will America, in your opinion, look like if it's an America that has its founding in Christianity and Judaism, those Judeo-Christian principles that you're adhering to?
I believe America will resemble what it was founded to be. And that is have morals again, to have freedom again, to have decency and order again. A lot of people say normalcy will not come back to America. I don't believe that. I believe we can bring back American values, American way of life, and that this country will function for what it was founded to be, the land of the free and one nation under God.
What's your hope for America?
My hope for America is revival. And as you know, revival means what? A spiritual reawakening. Christ is the answer for everyone who will receive him, who will accept him. So my hope is that as we embark on this endeavor, that we'll get so many involved in bringing back righteousness to this country.
Thank you, and God bless you.
Thank you so much for having me here.
My thanks to Pastor William Green. Coming up next, we'll be talking to another member of the Mordecai Mission, a political activist, Diane Rivera Lopez. She's next.